All right, gentlemen, here's the deal. I just today dropped a brand new YouTube series called The Future Is Now on my YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/Scott McKay, SCOTMCKAY. What's it all about? Well, it seems like not so long ago, certain things sounded futuristic, and they're already here. And a lot of that applies directly to how we relate to women, which is why I felt, well, now was the best time to publish these videos. They're all there for you in a nice, neat playlist right there at the top of the channel at youtube.com/Scott McKay. Yeah, man, they're all there already. You don't have to wait for one to be published every week or something like that. You can go ahead and binge watch them. But they're only about 5 or 6 minutes each anyway. I think you guys are really going to like them. It's going to challenge your imagination and your presumptions as well. All of those videos are there for you, along with a whole lot of other ones, including the video versions of every one of these podcast episodes at youtube.com/Scott McKay. Now we have a pretty good episode for you featuring my new friend, Lucia. I decided to put this one back to back against the one with Gary Sawyer last week because the themes that we cover are quite similar. And I really think you're going to like Lucia. She's super cool. Here we go.
Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, how's it going, gentlemen? Welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. As always, I am your host, Scott McKay. You can find me at Scott McKay on X, on True Social, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And you can also find me at Real Scott McKay on Instagram. The website is mountaintoppodcast.com. If you guys haven't checked that out in a long time, you need to go see what's up there because it's been changed around a little bit, especially the pages for these shows. The show notes pages themselves have been changed quite a bit. Go check it out. You'll probably like what you see. Matter of fact, you definitely will like what you see. You'll also definitely like joining the Mountaintop Summit on Facebook, which is our lively band of brothers who are getting better with women and also getting better as men in general. With me today is a brand new friend, and I like her already. I was chit-chatting with her before we started. She is from LA, and she has all the glitz and glamour to go with it. You guys are going to really enjoy her. And today we're going to talk about how to breakup-proof yourself and make women basically love you forever. Now, this can turn out to be a high-quality problem, but I'm going to let my new friend and my first-time guest, Lucia, introduce herself to you and talk all about it. This is like the dating game, Lucia. Say hi to the bachelors, Lucia.
Yes. Hello, gentlemen. I'm happy to be here. My name is Lucia, and I'm a dating and relationship expert, and I specialize in helping people get their ex back. I have clients from all over the world. I've had FBI agents, rock stars, actors, CEOs, and I love what I do. I love to help people to get their ex back, but I can also help you if you don't need to get your ex back. Whatever you need help with in dating, I'm here.
Fantastic. So you and I are in somewhat similar fields of expertise and endeavor, yet we haven't really crossed paths before. I think you just ended up working with a bunch of different people. I didn't see you darkening the door of my pickup artist masterminds back in the day, so that was probably good on you. You probably wanted nothing to do with those guys, huh?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. You know, it's interesting because one or more of the pickup artists back in the day used to market to men, single men, usually desperate guys who haven't gotten any in a while, who are feeling kind of a dry spell between their legs, by saying, you know, now you can get tens who are reserved for celebrities and rock stars. And I thought it incredibly interesting that you mentioned that among your clients are rock stars, which means even rock stars get broken up with.
It doesn't matter who you are. At some point, if you date long enough, you will get dumped.
As a matter of fact, show me someone who's never been broken up with, and I'll show you someone who hasn't done a whole lot of dating.
Exactly. So unless you get married when you're 20 and stay married, at some point you will be dumped and you'll want your ex back.
Now, that said, by the time my singlehood was wrapping up and I met Emily, I was dating a string of women, Lucia, who really had a much different dating issue, a higher quality problem, if you will, than guys, dragging them along, dating them for like 2 years and not putting a ring on it. They didn't meet a whole lot of guys who were commitment phobic.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they met a bunch of guys who wanted to propose marriage to them like after the third date, because guys would meet them and go, well, you're everything I need. You like men, you're feminine, you're sweet, your body count isn't through the roof, you have a decent job, and you vote like me, and you pray like me, and you don't really have this axe to grind with men in general. And they're like, I just want to marry you. Now, all were very pretty women. All of them were very sane women who didn't have mental illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all those other things in common too. But those women all reported to me they'd never met a commitment phobe before. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting because, as you know, most guys do not want to get married, or it takes them a long time to get to the point where they do want to get married. I mean, if you ask most people who are married, you'll find out that there was usually a breakup at some point, and then they got back together, and then they got married.
That's just messy. I don't think people are supposed to break up and get back together. If you break up, it's for a reason, don't you think?
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's the timing. Sometimes one person hasn't healed from a previous relationship. And oftentimes the guy he doesn't want to get married. It happened with my sister. And now they've been married for 45 years. Her husband didn't want to get married initially. A very good friend of mine, like so many people, just ask any stranger that you meet who's married. It's like, did you break up before you got married? And I bet you the answer is going to be yes.
That's really interesting. I think a lot of people do need to grow up, especially if they're young and in a relationship together. You see a lot of oldsters talking about how they married their high school sweetheart.
Right.
One of my friends, his parents just celebrated their 80th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
He's 100 and she's going to be 99 in 3 weeks from when we're recording this. So he was 20 and she was 19 when they got married, and they've been together happily, by the way, by all accounts, longer than most people live.
Yeah, that's true.
Crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe in the old days, people met their honey and got married happily. Nowadays, people have to shop and change who they're dating, date several dozen or more people before they know what they want, and then break up with them a couple times just to make sure. What has happened over the course of history within the last several decades? What do you think?
Well, the problem is that, strangely enough, the more choices you have, the harder it becomes to make a decision. So, if you're in a small town or you meet people, before the internet, you only had a handful of people. So it's like, okay, I only have a choice of 2 or 3 guys. All right, I'll take that one. But now you can just go online and just guy after guy or woman after woman. And it's like, well, why should I make a choice?
And you know what's really funny? 45 years ago, the band Devo,
right,
which of course was a weirdly cool band, yet actually pretty cynical if you listen to their lyrics, right? Had a song called Freedom of Choice, which was the title song from the same album that Whip It's on, right? Which is their iconic tune. And the point of the song is freedom of choice is what you got, and freedom from choice is what you want. It talks about a dog chasing its tail and falling over 2 bones and, the choice there. And it's a silly song, yet a very poignant song at the same time. And Lucia, that was 45 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have mass media and social media and the swipe right culture that we have now. It's devolved, which is another kind of Devo theme, right? That was basically the name of their band, De-Evolution.
Wow, I never thought of.
Yeah, well, no, that's the fact, right? But I mean, nowadays, if human nature is such that we would really not like to have so much choices, then we're really torturing ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but with the swipe apps now, I just don't see how we're going to get out of this.
Oh, yeah, the Pandora's box is WFO. It's wide open. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
There's no shutting that back inside. Yeah. But people nowadays are very fickle. They don't give people much of a chance. The first impression is often the last impression. And these are people who might even not have a whole lot of options when it comes to dating. They're just so used to making a knee-jerk reaction, judging people. I mean, this, in my opinion, was exacerbated by Twitter when it first came out, because someone gives 140 characters of what they're thinking, and everyone else reading closes every gap surrounding this person's personality and their character, et cetera, and decides what they think of them based on whether they agree or disagree with a 140 character post. And that's become habit 20 years later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I did this the other day. And so I want to get your opinion as a man. I'm on Bumble, and I asked him how the bumbling was going, which is my opening line to every guy on there. And he said, it's been a bloodbath. And
that's a rough term.
Exact, right? I didn't like that term. It's like, why did he have to choose that term out of all the terms he could have used?
Because he's a guy.
Well, but I didn't like that. So you know what? I unmatched him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he obviously doesn't know his way around women if he starts referring to bloodbaths. You know, I tell guys on first dates, don't talk about guns, don't talk about dark movies, don't talk about murder and death and this massive pileup in Austin that killed a bunch of people. Just, you know, be light and warm on first dates. Keep the dark stuff to yourself. Otherwise, she's not going to feel very safe and comfortable around you. She's going to feel, well, dark, like the energy you're projecting.
Right. That's why because I thought, even if I meet him and go forward, that's always going to be in the back of my mind that he used that word when we you know, it's like, okay, I'm waiting for the alternate personality to pop up.
Yeah, even in your horniest, most prurient fantasies, the word bloodbath probably doesn't take much of a role, you know?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about men and how men can become more like those women who have guys proposing to them after 3 or 4 dates instead of, well, women hanging around and not really sure and not wanting to be exclusive. I mean, typically women are sort of relationship minded, although it's a brave new world out there and many aren't. A lot of them act like cheesy pickup artists themselves. But when a guy experiences a pattern of going on a date or two and the woman saying, maybe not, or not so much, or I just think you and I should be friends, you know, that
right.
whole routine. What's going on with that guy versus the guy who can't really stop women from getting the feels very early and latching onto them and wanting more? I mean, 2 big problems. One's a higher quality problem than the other, and obviously the balance is probably what we're looking for. But I think a lot of guys who have experienced frustration dating and relating to women probably would love to have the higher quality problem than the lesser quality problem. So what are the big differences between guys who have staying power with women, who create that long-lasting attraction and that, well, I'm going to call it almost addiction, that the woman wants more of him than less? What separates those guys from the rest of the herd, Lucia?
2 words: masculine energy. If you've been,
you speak of my language.
I speak of your language.
You're Italiano, by the way.
I parlo italiano anche.
Okay.
So if you've been friend zoned, there wasn't enough masculine energy.
Boom. Thank you so much for being one of the few and the proud who actually get it, because I have had to argue with people about this before. Do tell. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just excited. Go ahead.
Good. I'm all about male and female energy because, you know, there's polarity. So if you're not masculine enough, then she has to go into her masculine to balance that out. It's like a seesaw. So if you're down on the seesaw, she's going to go up. And you don't want her up and you down, or vice versa. You need to be balanced. So the more you're in your masculine, the more she can be in her feminine. The safer she feels with you, the more she can be in her feminine. And the more she's in her feminine, the easier it is for her to fall in love, and she would never friend zone you.
I know so few people who understand what you just articulated, yet I have never had a female human being argue with the premise. Isn't that something?
Yeah, because we know it.
Right, but I've had female human beings argue with me that men and women both have masculine and feminine energy and this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, well, you know, as I see it, and I'm going to repeat it here for you, Lucia, masculinity and femininity are the psychosocial building blocks of sexual attraction. Mm-hmm. If there is no psychosexual component, no soul-based, even cognitively based component to sexuality, then we're reduced to body parts and primal impulses. And I think that's insulting to most women to think of sex that way.
It's insulting to all women.
Well, it's insulting to the human race. I mean, we're more evolved than that. We're not, mice. So much for the Discovery Channel, right? But men and women flirt. Men and women enjoy that energy, and it does polarize in a way that magnetizes. So yes, the man makes a woman feel safe and comfortable. He's a provider and a protector and an enabler and a celebrant of all things feminine. And when the woman feels like she's got a safe space to be feminine, then she brings all those things that we live for on weekends, Lucia, like love, joy, comfort, play, all that fun that women bring to life that so few guys know how to achieve on their own. So if she's got to pick up the masculine and make herself feel safe on a date, for lack of a better word, it almost feels silly to have to say that. then what's probably going on is she's seeing the man across the table from her as someone she needs to provide and protect for. And that turns her into his mommy instead of his potential lover. And boy, is that an attraction killer, right?
Right. And this is why, we have the courtesies of opening the car door for the woman, pulling out her chair, carrying her heavy bags, not because she can't do it herself, but because she has to go into her masculine to do that. Opening a car door, sometimes they're heavy. And so
it's just a demonstration that we get it. It's a first impression.
But also she can stay in her feminine energy. She just stands there. You open the door, she can walk in. She stands there, you pull up the chair, she sits down.
That's exactly right. And you know what? So many guys have lost sight of this, that what I tell the men listening to this show and reading my newsletter and anybody who will hear from the rooftops, frankly, is that you have no competition anymore, guys.
Right.
All these Gen Z guys have neutered themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have the wherewithal to move out of their mommy's basement and get their own life. And they're wondering where all the women are. And meanwhile, the women are wondering where all the real men are.
Mm-hmm.
And the real men sure as hell aren't the aforementioned guys with the Cheeto fingers and the video games.
Yeah, the real men are on your channel probably. And I tell guys, it's so easy to stand out today because guys aren't putting a lot of effort in. They're all walking around in these sweatpants. So if you actually wear real clothes and a shirt and you work out and you keep your beard trimmed and you get a haircut that works for your face, that can make such a big difference. And you have some manners, that's it. You got them. You'll have women flocking. You'll have to beat them off with a stick.
Well, I think you brought up kind of in a cursory fashion something that's very important for a lot of guys to remember. You don't have to be a pretty boy. And you may agree or disagree with this premise, Lucia, but I don't think women want a man who's quote unquote prettier than they are. They want to be the pretty one in a relationship, but women really do look for a man who is doing the best with what he's got. The term
Right.
I've heard that I really like is a man who's put together. That's what women are looking for, right?
That's why we have, the gay best friends, because the gay guys, they're doing it right. They're dressing right. They're working out. They've got the haircut, the beard. So we want a straight guy like that.
Well, I tell guys all the time, if you go to a store that represents a style that you think would match up with your lifestyle and your personality, right? Because style isn't just about clothes. It's about demonstrating who you are to the world. One of your best bets is to find a gay dude and have him dress you.
Yes.
Like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, that TV show used to be. And
Right.
guys are thinking like, well, he's going to try to dress me gay. No, man, he's a humanoid. He knows you're straight. He's not going to try to dress you like you're gay. He'll know what to do, but he will know what to do and how to do it.
Yes.
And you can also get women to help you get that put together look. They know exactly what you mean by that. The worst you can do is just go get some sloppy dude to sell you another pair of mom jeans to go with your Dockers and your logo polo shirts from the office. I mean, that'll never cut it, but lots of guys will have their little echo chamber where they all agree that this shouldn't matter when it absolutely does. You're right on the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what women want. I'm telling you.
Well, the demonstration there is that you know how to make decisions. You know how to put things in order, including yourself. Because if you're a mess, everything's going to be a mess that you touch.
Right.
So if you give this first impression that your life is put together, then that will pretty much subcommunicate to just about every woman that you know how to lead, you know how to provide, and you know how to protect. Boom, there's that sexual attraction you're looking for.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, the working out, like I see a lot of guys in these dating apps, they're all, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are overweight. And if they would just go to the gym, if they would just lose maybe even 20 or 30 pounds, their face would be more sculpted, they would be more attractive, and they'd get more women.
Yeah, I'm a lost cause, Lucia. I got this little baby face with the chipmunk cheeks that grandmas love to pinch, and I'm 58 years old. I don't think they're ever going to go away. And I used to be cut like a gymnast, an Olympic gymnast, and I still had that same face. And it's funny because I think a certain woman actually liked that and thought I was cute. My wife was like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much for that. I couldn't have a chiseled James Bond face if I starved myself on a hunger strike for the next couple months. I'd probably die before the chipmunk cheeks went away, as weird as it sounds. But anyway, enough about me. All right, a lot of this is based on first impression. Once we start relating to a woman, she knows that we can make her feel safe and secure. She knows we're well put together. But What is it that's going to make a woman who's interested in us and attracted to us want to become our girlfriend, fiance, or future wife someday? What is it that really gives a woman that idea that, man, she doesn't ever want to let this guy go?
Okay, so obviously, besides the masculine energy, we're assuming there's compatibility there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be exactly the same. There's chemistry, there's attraction. After that, it's then how you handle conflict.
Very interesting. In fact, our guest co-host just last week, Gary Sawyer, talked about something very similar. So there must be something to it, right?
That really shows who you are because, if the woman is insecure, she's going to start behaving in a way that might be bratty. She might disappear, she might ghost you, and it's how you handle that situation that, again, shows whether you can handle it like a man or like a baby. And so you can't get in your feelings and say, oh, well, she did this, so I'm not going to talk to her. It's like, no, we're going to talk about this. Like, you need to take control of the situation whenever there's a conflict.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you brought up that masculine energy again. And I think it would be helpful to underscore that whatever you did to attract her at the beginning, you better not get lazy with. You need to keep doing that. Just like, in all fairness, if a woman is svelte in physique when you first meet her, she can't go gain 150 pounds eating bonbons all day and expect you to be just as hot for her. That would be unreasonable.
Right.
But I think a lot of guys think like, okay, now I can relax. The whole this whole idea of fronting that I'm real masculine and I know how to provide and protect. Well, I'm just going to watch football on Sundays. And if the sink's broken, maybe she can fix it. That's not going to make her happy. That's going to turn her into the stereotypical nagging wife. But with that out of the way, the other things you said there, I think, are amazing. The compatibility, for example, so many people are so desperate to have anyone in their life who can fog a mirror that they finally meet someone who they're reasonably attracted to, and they just go into some kind of cognitive dissonance regarding the rest of this person's entire being. They're a horrible person. They're not nice to people. They may even have a little psychosis action going on here, but they go, oh, well, I'm sure it'll be all right. I've never dated someone as hot as she is, so it'll be okay. Or a woman may have had a series of bad breaks or grown up poor or something, and she meets a guy with some money and she thinks she's set for life, even though he's flat out evil. And then she just tries to deny it. You've got to have this compatibility where, first of all, both of you are relationship ready. I call it deserving what you want. You got to be the kind of person the person you're hoping to attract will be attracted to in return. And if you're not that person, you need to do the self-work until you are, or you're going to have a string of bad, incongruent, or even toxic relationships until you get that fixed, because you don't have to look any further than the mirror. And then the conflict resolution is amazing that you talked about. But I would like to ask you a follow-up question about that. If a woman is leaving and acting excessively bratty and being inconsistent, shouldn't we kick her to the curb if it's kind of excessive? Or is this something that women will just do?
Yes, you have to understand some people have what's called an anxious attachment style.
Of course.
A lot of people have trauma from previous relationships. And no one's perfect unless you're dating an 18-year-old who's never dated or a 20-year-old. People are going to have trauma and things are going to trigger them. So you need to be willing to work through this. And in fact, I have one of my clients who's a very high value guy, and he's got an amazing girlfriend. She's definitely a 10, and she's behaved a bit, quote unquote, strange here and there. And he keeps asking, should I break up with her? Should I break up with her? I don't want to. I love her. I go, no. She's insecure. She has an anxious attachment style. And they're still together and everything's great. So you can't just throw someone away the moment they get triggered, because you're going to be throwing everybody away, because everyone's going to get triggered at some point and everyone's going to trigger you at some point.
Well, I think two secures, when it comes to attachment theory, would probably have a smoother highway there, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but good luck finding that. Usually
especially at our age.
Usually people with this attachment style go for the avoidance and vice versa.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Why do we do that?
Well, it's all about, I could go into a long discussion about that, but...
well, I think it might be worth it to at least discuss it a little bit, because we're talking about breakup-proofing ourselves, right?
Right. Well, because they're attracted to what the person has that they don't. So the anxious person is attracted to the fact that the avoidant can detach so easily, and the avoidant is attracted to the fact that the anxious is willing to express their feelings and is willing to run towards the person they're interested in, as opposed to avoidants who run away when they see, when they get triggered or when the person starts acting strange, shall we say.
And the secure people are left going, I'll just wait till the robots come out.
Yeah, we all need someone secure, but there's not that many of them around.
I know, it's just a mess.
Yeah, I wanted to address something actually earlier about, the nagging wife.
Okay.
Women need attention. Like, this is an actual need that we have wired in, because back in the caveman days, we totally relied on men for survival. And if we didn't get attention, if we were kicked out of the tribe, we were going to die. We weren't going to survive. And so it's still, even though it's 2025 now, we still have that need for attention. And if they, just like guys have need for sex, women have need for attention. It's that strong. And if they don't get it, just as a guy will cheat or break up with a woman if they're not having sex, if a woman is not getting enough attention, she will cheat and or break up with you.
Well, I think that's interesting. Those two phenomena that we're talking about here kind of go hand in hand. You're neglecting what makes her feel safe and secure, and you're ignoring her as well, personally. So you're watching football. She's trying to talk to you. You don't care. You've got selective spousal deafness, which is, I think, what they call it. Plus, you're not going to freaking mow the lawn, and she can fix her own sink. So then, yeah, you're going to have a nagging wife pretty much 100% of the time.
The guy watching football, it's called single point focus. You guys can only focus on one thing at a time, which is necessary. Back in the caveman days, when you went hunting, you had to stay focused on catching the deer or whatever, because women, they have diffuse awareness and they need that for raising children. They need to be able to hear if a child is crying in the other room. So we can't really go hunting because we'll be focused on the deer, and they'll be like, oh, look at the bird in the tree. Look how cute. And then the deer, and then the deer runs away. It's like, oh, I didn't catch anything today.
All right, Lucia, but why do women wait till the 2-minute warning when your team's down by 1 touchdown and it's the last drive and it's the playoffs? And if Lamar doesn't execute this 80-yard drive in the next 90 seconds, we're going to lose. Why does she demand my attention right then? Why couldn't she have done it at halftime?
Exactly. No, I totally agree.
That's not an answer. I want to know why.
No, I'm going to tell women also because they don't understand about feminine energy and how to deal with men. So when they understand, then they know that if a guy's watching TV, if he's leave him alone. It's like, don't even talk to him. Like, he's not really there. And if you are going to say something, you have to say, excuse me, can I ask a question? And then you'll say, no, I can't. There's 2 more minutes left in this game. We'll talk later. Women have to understand that if they're going to interrupt a guy, they need to ask permission.
I think that's not only fair. I think everybody, male and female, needs to be reminded that these traits, if you will, of masculine and feminine energy, respectively, are what they are. It doesn't signal incompatibility or this woman will never be my wife because she won't sit there and watch football with me and understand what's going on. This is just how men and women are. If you want to peacefully cohabit with a spouse of the other gender, you got to understand this stuff, or else you're going to be eternally frustrated for no apparent good reason.
Right. I mean, men are not just hairy women walking around, and women often think that men think like women, and then they get frustrated when they realize they don't, and vice versa.
I used to have a girlfriend in college, and she would always gift me with stuffed animals on special occasions.
Huh.
And I may be a terrible person, but I ended up re-gifting them to other girls after we broke up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was acting as if you were a female, so that's why she gave you a stuffed animal.
No, I wasn't. And right. I don't think she would have liked the fact that I was another female because she was perfectly straight. So what's up with that? Yeah, bad idea. All right, so we're in a relationship. We understand how to resolve conflict. We understand why conflict starts. We understand masculine, feminine energy. Are there any other last tips you can give men to really make women just want to keep them around forever? Now, obviously, these can be dangerous tips because if it's a woman you really just want to have kind of a casual relationship with and you hope she doesn't fall in love with you. Right. You might want to charm throttle yourself, as I call it.
Yes.
Which, of course, I think could apply to stuff other than mere charm. You probably want to character throttle yourself and just not open up that big old box of shock and awe on her if you don't want her to be your future wife. But that aside, let's say these guys have met a woman who they really are thinking could be their one and only. Mm-hmm. What are some great ways to really inspire in that woman a desire to stick around?
So listening has been called white magic.
Wow. Yes. Another thing we talk about around here. And that's
Yes.
not a woman saying she wants you to obey her. It's
No.
a woman saying she wants you to get to know her better so you can lead and provide and protect better.
Right. And listen when she's talking, because a lot of guys, and I understand, they want to show off, impress her and show what they've got. They go on a first date, second date, and they're like, well, I've got this and I've got that and I do this and I do that. And she's like, shut up. I don't care.
That'll make her fall in love with your stuff and your money.
Right.
With you. Yeah.
Exactly.
If anything.
So listening is very important if you're going to be with someone. And I always tell my clients, you should, on your date night every week or every 2 weeks, make a decision that you're going to discuss what happened during that week that you loved, that the other person did, and then some things that you didn't really love, so that you don't sweep things under the rug. You take care of problems as they arise, and you let your partner speak. You can't interrupt. You can't get defensive. And then you get a chance to speak. That way, any little thing that comes up, you squash it right away and it doesn't become a huge problem.
Well, what I love about that idea is it sounds very much like you're advocating continuing growth as a couple rather than just saying, oh, we love each other. We're here. It's cool. We're in for the duration. Nobody's arguing. Let's just remain stagnant. When if you get to know each other a little better all the time like that, you'll continue growing your relationship and deepening it. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, you get rid of any problems. And then you have to continue to do date night. Like you said, whatever you did in the beginning, you got to keep doing it. Because a lot of women complain like, well, I like the way he was in the beginning. I just want him to be the way he was in the beginning. So I understand that you guys are goal oriented. They think, okay, once I've got the goal. Okay, now I don't have to put as much energy into it. Well, that's just not true anymore. Because of the dating apps, if she's not happy, she can just quickly go out and meet someone else. So you need to keep giving her the same level of attention that you got her used to in the beginning.
Well, as cynical as that sounds, it's not too far off from the truth, especially with the younger generation. Everything's transactional.
Right.
We're not in this because of love or anything else that I don't even begin to understand because I've never experienced it or felt it before. It's just you provide this, I provide that. And as long as we get along and we're feeling that mutuality, we won't break up. But if this becomes a bad deal and I'm not getting what I want out of it, then boom, you're out the door. I mean, that's kind of a shame. But in many ways, that is what it's come to.
Right. But if it's transactional for both people, then okay, then it's a match.
It is, but it still doesn't have a whole lot of lasting power. It's very fragile.
Right. But maybe they don't want it to last.
That's true, too. But that's a different podcast.
Right.
But yeah, for sure. If someone really thinks this is sort of a temporary relationship, then they can kind of monitor it as they go and decide when they don't want to see each other anymore. But the people who decide they want to be in this for the duration, they are always deepening that relationship. They are getting closer. And in order to be each other's ride or die, you have to trust each other too. I think the more I know what's going on in that pretty little head of Emily's, the more I trust her and the less I fear her. And I don't know where you stand on the whole fear is the opposite of love thing.
Right.
But I believe that. And I think the less that I'm afraid of the person I'm with, the more I can actually realistically love them. And you talk about being avoidant and being anxious. All that seems very fear-based. And the more we cure that, the more we'll start really loving the other person we're with. And I think that has the ultimate staying power. That might be what all the old school people have in common that is kind of the holy grail, you know?
Yeah. And you have to keep in mind also that there are 3 of you in the relationship. There's you, your partner, and then there's the actual relationship. And so everything you do, it has to be for the benefit of the relationship, not for you or not for your partner, but for the third party, for the relationship.
And it really gets complicated when the kids show up.
Well, you know what I mean.
I do. Her name is Lucia, and she's from Los Angeles. And you can find her at theartoflove.net. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to point mountaintoppodcast.com/Lucia, Lucia, 5 letters, to that exact website. There she has a book on how to get your ex back, if that happens to be the grind you guys are under right now. It's called No Contact Secrets. You can find a copy of that at Lucia's website. What else will they find there, Lucia?
They can find the link to get coaching. They can find a bunch of videos on how to get your ex back. And then I also have an app. called Silenzio, which means silence in Italian. And that is also to help you get your ex back and also for doing affirmations.
Fantastic. And all that's there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com/Lucia. Well, Lucia, you're just a gem. You and I seem to have independently arrived at a whole litany of correct conclusions about how men and women operate. So it's just a pleasure to meet you. And this has been a wonderful show that I think is going to affirm a lot of truth for a lot of men out there. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, I hope to have you back. And gentlemen, if you haven't been to mountaintoppodcast.com lately, please check out our three main sponsors, Jocko Willink's Company, Origin in Maine, the Keyport, and Hero Soap. When you use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10, you'll enjoy an extra 10% discount off of any of the products you partake of from any of our sponsors. Also, guys, it's time to talk to you about where your career is going. Are you working for someone else? Are you making them rich? Or are you doing what you want to do? Are you living the dream, living your purpose, and making the world a better place as you do it? Are you living your passions? The reason why I've decided now is the time to talk to you guys about this is because it used to be you could have a cushy job, retire from it, get a gold watch, et cetera, et cetera. For years, the corporate world hasn't been like that. But now, with the way things are going in the world nowadays, government jobs aren't even safe anymore. I've talked to several of you guys who've lost your federal government jobs, and you thought that would never happen. Guys, it's time to get your career in order. At the very least, we can take a look at your resume and make sure it's wired for the year 2025 instead of 1982. And at best, we can get you on a path to doing what you actually want to do and having it pay the bills. Talk to me, guys. You can always talk to me about your relationships with women, of course, but now more than ever, it's time to talk about your career and your future. Get on my calendar at mountaintoppodcast.com for 25, 30 minutes. We'll talk about it. Won't cost you a dime. If it makes sense to put a plan together to get you on the fast track, that's great. But I really want to hear what's on your guys' minds and give you results that you can take with you just from that 30-minute call. A way to get on my calendar to make that call happen and so much more is right there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.